Peace and power to the people. It's your guy, Young Eli. Eli, my Lord, or Eli. All depends on however you would like to address me, but all of those is fine. They all the same thing. But right now, we here to get your mind straight, tap in your gifted mind state. We diving into that King James Version Bible, and I'm going to talk about the impact that it had on society, how it was constructed. We're going to get into King James, the guy himself, debunk some myths that's out there, and yeah, pretty much it. Actually, this is my second live. My other live is on my Patreon. So I have this thing to where I want to keep it up for 1 month to 2 months, and then you could go to my Patreon and find these videos. But with that being said, I got a program now. I didn't have it like this my first live, so this time I'm doing something a little bit different, a little bit more organized. Hope you enjoy. Here go my video, Aware.
It's gifted mind state. Get your mind straight. I don't make music for the sheep. I can't even go back to sleep, and it's probably what I eat. Can't tell me that niggas don't read on me. I don't claim it, but that's what they call me. Damn, these rabbit holes actually be deep. Like to see if you ain't looking, then how you gon' show you what they want on TV? And I don't like to argue truth, so don't believe me. You don't need proof to believe me. Lie means to deceive. All of these high degrees, fucking up communities, doing commerce with no unity. People trying to push these orders, but they won't control me. Always stay aware. You can't move smart if you feel scared. Stay aware. Gotta stay aware so you can move smart, not move out of fear. Stay aware. And if you are aware, you can stay on point, stay alive, be aware. Stay aware. Stay aware. I would rather know than not know. When I took my head out the sand, the whole close, but I wouldn't even put it back though. That's a fact though. The government is the fact though, and that is factual. The Constitution is contractual. Politicians getting paid to distract you. The jobs to persuade, not to act you. Lobbyists paying them to vax you for some shit that came out of a lab. Gain of function research gone bad. Now they got crisp in the jab. I'm trying to buy land, fuck all that. Before Bill Gates buy up the map, yeah. I wanna own some of what my people had. It goes against the system that we still have. Yeah, I'm aware. I wanna grow my own food cause I'm aware. I see no seed of fruit, yeah, I'm aware. I'm aware what I need to do. Always stay aware, cause you can't move smart if you feel scared. Stay aware. Gotta stay aware, so you can move smart, not move out of fear. Stay aware. And if you are aware, you can stay on point, stay alive, be aware. Stay aware. Stay aware. Always stay aware, cause you can't move smart if you feel scared. Stay aware. Gotta stay aware, so you can move smart, not move out of fear. And if you are aware, you can stay on point, stay alive, be aware. Stay aware. Stay aware.
Now, I am well aware of what I'm setting in motion by what I'm saying here tonight. I'm well aware, but I have never said or done anything in my life that I wasn't prepared to suffer the consequences for.
right there was my video Aware. You can see that on Young Eli, YUNGELI, Aware. The music videos on my page. The shirt, if you like the shirt is on giftedmindstate.com. You see that right there, scrolling right there, giftedmindstate.com. And you get your Gifted Mind State merch. As you see, this is this right here is glow in the dark. Wish I could show you. They glow in the dark brains though. Gifted Mind State, because we all about getting your mind straight. So anywho, we're gonna jump right into the presentation. So hope you enjoy. Let's go. King James the First of England and the Sixth of Scotland in the transatlantic slave trade. All right, so this is the first thing we're gonna do. We're gonna get rid of this this Hebrew Israelite, the Hebrew niggerite, whatever we gonna call them, the Hebrews, right? We're gonna bust this myth here. So they like to talk about how King James was he was a Jacobite. He was from he was from the line of Jacob because of on his on the picture they got of him, it says Jacobian, and he's from the it was the Jacobian era, so forth. So James, as we see it right here, is Latin for Jacobus, right? What's Jacobus? Jacob. Oh, don't we see that? Jacob. Go down here. You see James. Come on. Look. Over here, the origin of the name James comes from the Hebrew name Jacob. It means supplanter. But they try to find anything to justify some validity into this fictional book. But so right here, Elizabeth the First, right? Elizabeth the First was King James's I think that was his aunt, right? So she was part of the she basically set up this whole transatlantic slave trade. How? All right. So as you see, she succeeded the throne of her half sister. Where we at? Where are we at? Okay, influential statesman in the court, Elizabeth I. Walter Raleigh played a major part in advancing the English colonization or settlement of North America. After Elizabeth's death, Raleigh's political enemies conspired to turn the new king, King James, against him. Raleigh spent 13 years in prison. He was executed. All right. So here we go. Elizabeth I, Mary. Okay, that's what it was. So this slide right here. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna have to do that. So this slide right here was basically gonna include this slide. So Mary the First of England, right? Mary the First of England is known as Mary Tudor, or as Bloody Mary, because that's what they called her, Bloody Mary. So that whole superstition shit, going into the mirror in the dark, screaming Bloody Mary 3 times. This broad is gonna be behind you. This is where it comes from. This is the origin. So, anywho, you got over here King Philip, right? So King Philip was the king of Spain and Portugal. He was the king of the Spaniards and the king of the Portuguese, champion of the Roman Catholic counter-reformation. During his reign, the Spanish Empire attained its greatest power, extent, and influence, though he failed to suppress the revolt of the Netherlands and lost the invincible armada in the attempted invasion of England, 1588. So, that being said, King Philip, King Philip is the connection with Mary of England and what you call it? Mary of England and this transatlantic slave trade, right? Because look, with the Tudors, who we know up in who we know up in let me get it right. Who we know up in America, right? The Tudors. But anywho, King of Spain, Philip had received the Duchy of Milan from Charles V in 1540, and the Kingdom of Naples and Sicily in 1554, on the occasion of his marriage to Mary of England. Right? So he married Mary of England, co-monarch. You see it right there. So Mary of England, this is your connection to the Portuguese. We know the Portuguese involvement in the transatlantic slave trade, obviously. Now, over here, you got the Catholicism, because, hold on. Mullen leaf tea. I used to smoke a lot of cigarettes, so it helps me out. Anywho, unquestionably, Philip II was a loyal son of the Catholic Church. He famously told Pope Pius V in 1566 that rather than suffer the least death to religion in the service of God, I will lose all my states and 100 lives if I had them. For I do not purpose or desire to be the ruler of heretics. Philip also attempted to improve the quality of the Spanish church. He enforced the decrees of the Council of Trent in Spain and employed the Spanish Inquisition to eradicate heresy and monitor the progress of the reform program. Did you see right there? He enforced the decrees of the Council of Trent in Spain and employed the Spanish Inquisition. The Spanish Inquisition. We know about the Spanish Inquisition, right? So, to eradicate heresy, so they say, and monitor the progress of the reform program. Moreover, Philip actively defended and promoted the interests of Catholicism beyond Spain's borders. Then it says Geoffrey Parker had argued that Philip's sense of religion mission crucially shaped the foreign and imperial policy. This article explores both the nature of Philip's religious policy and the centrality of religion to his thinking. Then you got Westminster, which is I think it has something to do with the Bible. I can't remember right now, but this is your origin, though, to show you, right? Because what does this have to do with King James? This is King James people. This right here is King James people, okay? Mary the First of England. This is Elizabeth's sister. This is the half sister. This is her half sister. This is your connection with England and Portugal before the transatlantic slave trade happened. This is the beginning of this pale washing, right? So she married in with King Philip. And then again, you got Elizabeth I. So now, what we've been waiting for, let's move on to King James, right? This is the Virginia Company. The Virginia Company was a fleet of ships that came to Jamestown, Virginia, as what we know of it today. It says England was relatively a poor nation in the late 1500s, with the ruler willing to send privateers against other colonial powers, but unwilling to risk public monies on a standing English colony. Queen Elizabeth I, right? The first gave a blessing to Sir Walter Raleigh, right? Which is what I read earlier. Sir Walter Raleigh. Personal funding of the Roanoke colony, but it failed. If you know about the Roanoke colony, then you know that is the first fleet that went over into Virginia, and basically they was trying to colonize the land, but they failed because nobody made it back. Right now, this is way. Was this before the French? I think this was before the French got there. I'm not too sure. I think the French was there a little bit before. I know the French was in there like 1500s. But look at the controlling families, because we about to get into the East India Company, because you're gonna find out about the East India Company. So you got the House of Sassoon. They say the masters of India and China. You got the House of Rothschilds, the uncrowned kings of Europe. You got the House of Rockefeller. They say the princes of North America. House of Rhodes and Oppenheimers. Do you know about Cecil Rhodes? Huh? Do you know about Cecil Rhodes? Come on. And the Oppenheimers? Do you know about the Oppenheimers? I may have to do a presentation on Cecil Rhodes and also the Oppenheimer. Actually, I should do a presentation on all of them, honestly. But also the House of Jardine and Mason, the noble opium knights, and the House of Inchapes, the Lord of Seas. So the East India Company, they play a big part in this whole thing. Now, you see the damn, I forgot the crest, right? I forgot what the whole shit is called, but you see it. It's there. Look, they telling you where these people are coming from. So this right here is Sir Thomas Smith. Sir Thomas Smith was an English merchant who served as the first of 3 treasurers of the Virginia Company of London. Because if you didn't know, the Virginia Company of London was a joint stock company, but that's going to be said here anyway. Although his surname is sometimes rendered Smith with an I-T-H, he also spelled it Y-T-H-E. Like his father, he was a successful haberdasher and investor in trading companies, including the East India Company. He was briefly imprisoned after a rebellion against Queen Elizabeth I. But he was knighted by King James I in 1603 and appointed loyal ambassador to Russia. In 1609, in conjunction with the company's second charter, he became treasurer of the Virginia Company of London, a joint stock company that founded the English colony at Jamestown. Smith's administration was tumultuous and ended with the election of his rival Sir Edwin Sandys as treasurer in 1619. 4 years later, the Crown opened an investigation into the company for mismanagement and in 1624 revoked this charter. Smith died in Kent, 1625. Damn. Another one. Bartholomew Gosnold. Bartholomew Gosnold was one of the leading figures of the English settlement at Jamestown, helping to organize the Virginia Company of London, and landed in Virginia with the first group of adventurers in 1607. Born in Suffolk on the eastern coast of England in 1571, he joined Robert Devereux, 2nd Earl of Essex, on his expedition to Azores in 1597. Upon his return to England, Gosnold became interested in colonizing North America, planting about 20 colonists in New England in 1602. Although the colony failed, Gosnold is credited for making the first documented European visit to Cape Elizabeth and for naming Cape Cod and Martha's vineyard. He was used family connections to recruit members for the Virginia Company of London with Captain John Smith. Captain John Smith sounds very familiar. Sounds like some Pocahontas shit. Who knows? Describing Gosnold as one of the first movers of the Virginia colony. For political reasons, perhaps Gosnold did not command the voyage west, but he served on the colony's council once he arrived and helped bring bickering factions together. He died of disease August 22nd, 1607. A grave that archaeologists uncovered at Jamestown in 2003 was initially thought to have belonged to Gosnold, but scholars are no longer certain. There's a lot of people in this motherfucker. All right. Pardon my French, but there's a lot of motherfuckers in this shit. Edward Maria Wingfield. Yeah, Maria. Edward Maria Wingfield was a founding member of the Virginia Company of London and the first president of the Council of Virginia, a group of Jamestown settlers appointed by the company to make local decisions for the colony. Born into a political and military family, Wingfield followed his uncle Jacques Wingfield to Ireland and spent many years fighting there during the reign of Queen Elizabeth I. He studied law briefly, fought the Spanish and Low Countries, returned to Ireland, and served in Parliament before retiring from military service in 1600. From then on, he focused on colonization, helping his cousin Bartholomew Gosnold recruit members for the proposed colony in Virginia. Unlike most of the original investors named in the first charter, Wingfield actually traveled to Virginia and served as the colony's first president. Wingfield was unable to keep the peace among the settlement's leaders. Unlike, I think it was Gosnold who was able to bring bickering factions together. Okay, but his cousin couldn't. All right, cool. So they needed each other. Where was I? I digress. Wingfield was unable to keep the peace among the settlement's leaders. He and Captain John Smith clashed repeatedly. They go John Smith again. And he was deposed as president and sent back to England. There he wrote his discourse on Virginia, defending himself against attacks and providing a valuable description on the colony's origins. He died in 1631, having remained active in the Virginia Company's efforts. Yeah. Look. I got some more. We got 4 more. We're gonna get into this shit though, cause we gotta. I didn't want to half-ass this presentation. I wanted to do this presentation for so long, just like the Malcolm X presentation. I wanted to do it for so long, but it's like I have to make sure I get everything. I gotta clear all the corners. John Smith, Captain John Smith. He was a soldier and a writer who is best known for his role in establishing the Virginia colony at Jamestown, England's first permanent colony in North America. A farmer's son, Smith was a soldier of fortune in Europe before he joined the Virginia Company of London expedition 1606 to 1607. At Jamestown, Smith served on the local council, explored and mapped the Chesapeake Bay, established a sometimes contentious relationship with Powhatan, the paramount chief of the I'm about to butcher this motherfucker. Tescomoco, the chief of the Tescomoco, and was president of the colony from September 1609 to September 1610. He was unpopular among his fellow colonists. However, damn, that name just fucked me up, so it just kind of threw me off. But however, who forced his return to England in October 1610? Smith never returned to Virginia. If you ever seen the Disney movies, kind of like that. Anywho, which he named New England. Much of what is now known about Smith's life comes from his own detailed and informative accounts of his experiences. Although many of his contemporary, I'm not even, look, you know what I'm saying. Contemporaries considered him a braggart, and he almost certainly embellished his own accomplishments. His narratives provide invaluable insights into England and native life during the Virginia colony formative years. Shit, gotta get my water. Woo! Okay. I'm not used to this. Look, I'm gonna get used to it though. I got a whole bunch of presentations coming. Mr. Sir Thomas Gates. Yeah, Gates. Gates is a name that's goes back deep. I mean, it's not far-fetched what you're thinking. I'm pretty sure you're thinking the same thing I thought when I first seen this, and you're probably gonna look it up. Anywho, Sir Gates. This picture is supposed to be dated in 1622. Sir Thomas Gates served as governor of Virginia in 1610, and then as lieutenant governor from 1611 until 1614. Born in the southwest of England, he served in the West Indies with Sir Francis Drake and fought with Robert Devereux, second Earl of Essex, which is crazy because Essex and Bill Gates, you know what? It's another time. I got to stop doing that. I digress. In Normandy and Cadiz, where Gates was knighted in 1596. Damn, he was knighted just... You know what? This is look, we already know Billy was Bill Gates. He was knighted. His great grandfather, whatever, I don't know how many greats it is, but he was also knighted as well, so it runs in the family. They got these connections. But anywho, knighted in 1596, Gates was an original investor in the Virginia Company of London and led an infantry company in the Netherlands until taking command of a massive resupply fleet to Virginia in 1609. Aboard the flagship Sea Venture, Gates and his crew were shipwrecked on Bermuda for nearly a year before finally making it to Virginia. There, Governor Gates encountered a colony on the brink of extinction, saved only by the timely arrival of a new governor, Thomas West, 12th Baron Delaware, advocating a strict military-style regime. Gates instituted a set of rules that were expanded in 1612. He published, as for the colony in Virginia, Britannia, laws divine, moral and martial in company, I believe that it is. He participated in sometimes brutal attacks on the Indians during the First Anglo-Powhatan War, 1609 to 1614. And in England, he worked as a tireless advocate for the Virginia Company. Returning to Virginia in 1611, Gates stiffened Jamestown's defenses, and with Sir Thomas Dale, cleared much of the James River of Powhatan Indians. Gates died in the Netherlands in 1622. Damn. Oh, okay, so that's what it is. 1622 is not the date of the picture, it's the day he died. Got you. Sir George Somers, 1554 to 1610. Sir George Somers was an English privateer and a sea captain who served as admiral of a large resupply voyage to Jamestown in 1609. His ship, the Sea Venture, which is going back to right here with Sir Thomas Gates aboard the flagship, the Sea Venture. So they were on the same fleet for the Virginia Company. The Sea Venture was wrecked and its passengers stranded for almost 10 months on the islands of Bermuda. They were on Bermuda, the Bermuda Island. A native of Dorset in the southwest of England, Somers preyed on Spanish shipping in the West Indies during his early years, earning enough money to buy land and build a nice home near his native town of Lyme Regis. Described as being a lion at sea, he was knighted by King James I in 1603, and in 1606 was named in the Virginia Company of London's Royal Charter to settle Virginia. In 1609, Somers sailed on the Sea Venture, the resupply fleet's flagship that was shipwrecked in the Bermudas. There, despite disagreements with the governor, Sir Thomas Gates, Somers helped lead the castaways in their return to Virginia in May 1610. A few weeks later, a new governor, Thomas West, Baron Delaware, that was mentioned in here, right there, ordered Somers back to Bermuda to gather supplies. He died there early in November. Damn, that sounds like a setup. His nephew, Matthew Somers, buried his heart and entrails in Bermuda. Soon after, named the Somers Island, before returning the rest of his body to England for burial. What the fuck? If that's not some my son's shit, some free my son shit, God, sheesh. They said buried his heart and entrails in Bermuda, which was soon after named the Somers Islands, before returning the rest of his body to England for burial. Last one, Richard Hakluyt, or Hackle, I don't know. Anywho, he's better known as Richard the Younger or Richard the Minister. To distinguish him from his elder cousin of the same name, was an editor, geographer, and Anglican minister. With his cousin, he acted as one of the chief propagandists of English colonization in North America. My fault. I'm kind of butchering this. Look, I read all of this a while back, and then it's just I've been getting new information. So this is like there's a lot of stuff in here. We're gonna get to it all though. It ain't gonna take too long. But yeah. So anywho, in 1582, he published divers voyages touching the discovery of America and the lands adjacent, probably in support of Sir Humphrey Gilbert's plan to settle North America. And when Gilbert's half-brother Walter Riley, there go Walter Riley again. Gilbert's half-brother Walter Riley inherited Gilbert's patent for colonization. What the fuck? There's a patent for colonization? Anywho, Hakluyt wrote and presented to Queen Elizabeth. I'm pretty sure it's motherfucking Queen Elizabeth I, right? I'm sure of that. A discourse on Western planting, 1584, forcefully arguing for colonization predicated on Protestant proselytizing and economic expansion, both of which he insisted would help undermine Spain. 5 years later, he published Principles, Navigations, and Voyages and Discoveries of the English Nation, a remarkable collection of documents whose final section focused on English activities in the Americas. Hakeloo also played a key role in producing, I don't even know how to pronounce this man's name. I know I'm fucking it up though. He played a key role in producing a book that brought England's first American colony to the attention of a wide and lasting audience. The first volume of Flemish engraver Theodore de Brye's multilingual America series. An edition of Tom Harriot's narrative with John White's image and the maps of the settlement of Roanoke Island. In later years, Hakeloo advised the East India Company. He was one of the 8 names of the original charters of the Virginia Company of London, and he was listed as an investor in the second charter. An official for many years at Westminster Abbey, he died in 1616. These are all your people that played a key role with these motherfuckers here. Yeah, the East India Company. It's not specifically these motherfuckers. It's their ancestors. The people who were alive during this time. And they all played a role with this guy, King James I. So let's learn about the Virginia Company of London, since we just dived into the investors, the key people, the people who established this joint stock company with the king, right? The illustrious king. I gotta say the illustrious, 'cause that's what they call him. That's a title in one of these organizations, by the way. I'm just saying. The Virginia Company of London in the late 1580s. Here we go with Sir Walter Raleigh again, right? Sir Walter Raleigh attempted to plant a colony for England in present-day North Carolina. This unsuccessful and expensive settlement, often referred to as the Lost Colony, this is the Roanoke Colony, made the English crown wary of trying again. It was not until 1606 that the Virginia Company of London received a charter from the newly crowned King James I. Following the precedent set by other companies such as the Muscovy Company and the East India Company, the Virginia Company was a joint stock company which sold shares. All who purchased shares at a cost of, 12 euros, 10 shared in the success or failure of the venture. The Virginia Company was formed both to bring profit to its shareholders and to establish an English colony in the New World. Look, they knew what they was doing when they came here. You see, a lot of people were just thinking these motherfuckers they already planned to come over and colonize the land. They knew there was already people here. They knew this because there was already a connection with the Portuguese. There was already a connection with the French. So they already knew what was going on over here. And this is why they came over here. So the Virginia Company was formed by both to bring profit to its shareholders and to establish an English colony in the New World. The company, under its direction of the treasurer, Sir Thomas Smith, was instructed to colonize land between the 34th and 41st Northern Parallel. In December 1606, the Virginia Company's 3 ships containing 144 men and boys set sail. On May 13, 1607, these first settlers selected the site of Jamestown Island as the place to build their fort. In addition to survival, the early colonists had another pressing mission: to make a profit for the stockholders of the Virginia Company. Although the settlers were disappointed that the gold did not wash up on the beach and gems did not grow in the trees, they realized there were great potential for wealth and other kinds in their new home. Why did they say, although the settlers were disappointed that the gold did not wash up on the beach and gems did not grow in the trees? If I was able to play the Virginia Company of London, which is on the soundtrack of Pocahontas, the Disney movie, the cartoon, you will hear them talk about how they're going to Virginia to kill some Indians. Yeah, they said Indians. They kill some Indians and find some gold. It's a romanticized movie for kids, but it's a dark story that is not even looked at as dark, but it's technically dark. I mean, it's fucking crazy. Yeah, early industries such as glass manufacture, pitch and tar production, and beer and wine making took advantage of natural resources and the land fertility. However, the settlers could not devote as much time as the Virginia Company would have liked their financial responsibilities. To their financial responsibilities. They were too busy trying to survive. We're gonna get how they were trying to survive too. Hold on, I need some more water. Shit is crazy. These motherfuckers, they was doing some shit, man. Gotta get you a glass bottle of water. Actually a glass water bottle. So when you put your water, put your water in there, and you can get them BPA and all them other chemicals from them plastic bottles. Cheer. Anywho, where was I? Within the three-sided fort erected on the banks of the James, the settlers quickly discovered that they were first and foremost employees of the Virginia Company of London, following instructions of the men appointed by the company to rule them. In exchange, the laborers were armed and received clothes and food from the common store. After 7 years, they were to receive land of their own. This is what they were promised. The gentlemen who provided their own armor and weapons were to be paid in land, dividends, and additional shares of stock. Initially, the colonists were governed by a president and 7-member council selected by the king, King James I, as we know. Leadership problems quickly erupted in Jamestown. First 2 leaders coped with varying degrees of success with sickness, Indian assaults, poor food and water supplies, and class strife. When Captain John Smith became Virginia's 3rd president, he proved the strong leader that the colony needed. Industry flourished and relations of the Chief Powhatan people improved. In 1609, the Virginia Company received the second charter, which allowed the company to choose this new governor from amongst its shareholders. Investment boomed as the company launched its intensive recruitment. I'm reading too fast. Boomed as the companies launched intensive recruitment campaign. Over 600 colonists set sail for Virginia between March 1608 and March 1609. Captain John Smith. Ain't that part of the movie, the Disney movie? Captain John Smith getting with Pocahontas? What it say? He proved to be the strong leader the colony needed. How? Because their relations with Chief Powhatan, with his people, improved. So now we get into, unfortunately for these new settlers, Sir Thomas Gates, who was on the second charter, Virginia's deputy governor. I think he was on the second charter. I think this is what we're getting at. Bound for the colony, was shipwrecked in Bermuda and did not assume his new post until 1610. When he arrived, he found only a fraction of the colonists had survived the infamous starving time of 1609 to 1610. We're going to get into starving time. I think this is in the next clip. Starving time was... We're going to get into that. All too soon, the mother country learned of Virginia's woeful state. The result was predictable. Financial catastrophe for the company. Many new subscribers reneged a payment of their shares, and the company became entangled in dozens of court cases. On top of these losses, the company was forced to incur further debt when it sent hundreds more colonists to Virginia. There was there was little to counter this crushing debt. No gold has been found in Virginia. Trading commodities produced by exploitation of the raw materials found in the New World were minimal. Attempts at producing glass, pitch, tar, and potash had been barely profitable, and regrettably, such commodities could be had far more cheaply on the other side of the Atlantic. Increasingly bad publicity, political infighting, and financial woes led the Virginia Company to organize a massive advertising campaign. The company plastered street corners with tempting broadsheets, published persuasive articles, and even convinced the clergy to preach of the virtues of supporting colonization. Before the company was dissolved, it would publish 27 books and pamphlets promoting the Virginia venture. So they were encouraging people to come from England to move over here. So now you got more of these people. Now they're here. They're not going to want to go back. And then you start creating this propaganda. They're going to want to bump heads with the people that they got to share the land with, the people that technically let them there in the first place. Right? The Powhatan. So it says, to make shares more marketable, the Virginia Company changed its sales pitch. Instead of promising instant returns and vast profits for investors, the company exploited patriotic sentiment and national pride. Didn't I just say that? A stockholder was assured that his purchase of shares would help build the might of England, to make her the superpower she deserved to be. The heathen natives would be converted to the proper form of Christianity, the Church of England. What they call them? The heathen natives would be converted to the proper, the heathens, according to this book right here, heathen is, the etymon is a Gentile. And the etymon for Gentile is just a non-Jewish woman, which would be a heathen until more of the demonization came about. But yeah, the heathen natives would be converted to the proper form of Christianity, the Church of England. The Church of England. People out of work could find employment in the New World. The standard of living would increase across the nation. How could any good patriotic Englander resist? This is what I said. And I forgot that was even in here. But I said, why not encourage people to come over, right, to this land that you want to colonize? And then as they here, they're not going to want to go back because that was a long-ass voyage. They on boats. So you're not flying fucking planes. These ships don't got no fucking motor. You know, these ships is so... Come on. They encourage these people to now want to take over this land because there ain't enough resources. And we're going to understand why there wasn't, not that there wasn't enough resources, but how they was able to exploit these people into wanting to basically take over more of the land. So, people out of work could find employment in the New World. The standard of living would increase. Okay. The English rose to the bait. The gentry wished to win favor by proving its loyalty to the crown. The growing middle class also saw stock purchasing as a way to better itself, but the news was not all good. Although the population of Jamestown rose, high settler mortality kept profits unstable. By 1612, the company's debts had soared to over 1,000 euros. Or is that 1,000 pounds? I guess that's pounds. I gotta be pounds, right? Yeah, that's pounds. I'm bugging. A third charter provided a short-term resolution to the Virginia Company's problems. The company was permitted to run a lottery as a fundraising venture. Other attractive features of the charter allow Virginia's assembly to act as the colony's legislator and also added 300 leagues of ocean to the colony's holdings, which would include Bermuda as a part of Virginia. What? Hold up. How? How, Sway? How you going to include Bermuda as part of Virginia if Virginia is part of a landmass already? How, Sway? How? Look, but the colony was still on the shaky ground until John Rolfe's successful experiment with tobacco as a cash crop provided a way to recoup financially. John motherfucking Rolfe. Do you know who that is? Well, if you was like me, you grew up and you had no choice, because I had a little girl cousin. She wanted to watch all these Disney movies because my grandmother had all these fucking movies for us. Yeah. John Rolfe, he came after John Smith. He's in the Pocahontas movie. Woo. Keep hitting the mic. But let me tell you this. Look. Let me tell you. They don't hide what's going on in the movie. What happened in real life, they don't hide that. They tell it like what it is. Everything that happened in the shit, only thing is, it wasn't romantic. Pocahontas was, she was brainwashed. But they're not going to show that in Disney. I mean, you know, Disney owned patents to motherfucking the History Channel anyway, so they got these rights to kind of retell the story in the way that they want to, just to basically try to teach the kids, but also get them entertained, and it also does something, stimulates them mentally. But anywho, unfortunately, by 1616, the Virginia Company suffered further adversity. The original settlers were owed their land and stock shares. Initial investors at home were owed their dividends. The company was forced to renege on its cash promises, instead distributing 50 acre lots in payment. The next year, the company, how the fuck they gonna do 50 acre lots in payment if they even got that much? It's not even their land to be given out like that. That's what I didn't understand anyway, which is, how was this king, right? Who acknowledged, when they came over, nobody acknowledged his authority, his royalty that he had in his land, that the Europeans, these Germans people, that they established, right? They established this whole royalty system, this hierarchy system. They established all of this. When they came over into this new land, dealing with the Iroquois and Algonquin, right? They didn't acknowledge their authority. And if I'm not mistaken, that sounds de facto that these motherfuckers came over here and established what they did. But with that being said, the company was actually, wait, where was I? Oh yeah, investors and residents were able to acquire land and paying the passage of new settlers. In most cases, these newcomers spent a period of time in servitude on the investors' land. You heard that? In most cases, these newcomers spent a period of time in servitude. Don't that sound like something in the Constitution? 13th Amendment? 13th. In servitude on the investor's land. The investor's land. Could be like a private prison now. Who knows? Anywho, Sir Edwin Sandys, a leading force in the Virginia Company, strongly supported the head right system, for his goal was a permanent colony which would enlarge British territory, relieve the nation's overpopulation, and expand the market for English goods. Sir Thomas Smith, as the company's treasurer, had a different dream. The Virginia Company's mission was to trade and to make a profit. To trade and make a profit. Who they trading with? They own people. People back where they came from. Come on. Starving time. The starving time. We're going to explain the starving time. Look, the starving time was the winter of 1609 to 1610, when food shortages fractured leadership and a siege by Powhatan Indian warriors killed 2 of every 3 colonists at James Fort. If you didn't know, all of this James shit is because King James. So because they love their king so much, they named the first colony after him. They named everything after him. From its beginning, the colony struggled to maintaining a food supply. Trade relations with the Virginia Indian tribes were strained because a severe 7-year drought stressed food supplies for everyone in the region. Captain John Smith had some success trading European goods for corn in the first 2 years of the settlement, but his strong-arm tactics also angered the tribal communities. Strong arm. Why he got a strong arm him? And yes, they're connected to the Puritans that came over on the Plymouth. The Plymouth, I think I got that in here. Hold on. Woo! That water. Need that water. 2 hydrogens and oxygen. Let's go. Where was I? Aware of the food shortages, the Virginia Company sent a fleet of 9 ships in July 1609 with new colonists and enough supplies to last through the winter. But the fleet was scattered and damaged by a hurricane. The largest ship, the Sea Venture. Whose ship is that? Huh? This gonna say it anyway. It was shipwrecked on the island of Bermuda, which they wanted to fucking make part of Virginia, with much of the supplies and the leaders such as Captain Christopher Newport, Sir George Somers, and Sir Thomas Gates. In mid-August, some of the ships arrived at Jamestown with 300 colonists and few supplies. Smith was badly injured by a mysterious gunpowder explosion and forced to return to England in October. That happened in the movie, didn't it? If I'm not mistaken, I forgot. I think he did get shot. George Percy became president of the council and faced the lethal combination of dwindling food supplies and then ordered by Chief Powhatan that his warriors should attack any colonists or livestock found outside the fort. George Percy sounds familiar. Was George Percy? I gotta look. I'm not sure if he was rocking with William Penn and the rest of them. Maybe. I gotta check on that. Maybe you could check on that on your own, but yeah. So Percy later wrote that Indians killed as fast without the fort as famine and pestilence did within. Percy calculated that that meager rations of half a can of meal a day would get them only halfway through the winter. He wrote that to satisfy their cruel hunger. Look how they spelled that shit. Yo, look how, I can't laugh because I'm speaking the same fucking language that they're writing, and unfortunately it just motherfucking it evolved. Some went into the woods looking for serpents and snakes and to dig the earth for wild and unknown roots, but those people were cut off and slain by the savages. I guess he means savages. Starvation weakened the colonists and led to sickness such as dysentery and typhoid. The colonists are shoe leather and butchers, seven horses brought from England the summer before on the ill-fated fleet. Percy wrote, then having fed upon horses and other beasts as long as they lasted, we were glad to make shift with vermin as dogs, cats, and mice. So they were eating dogs, cats, and mice, horses, and other beasts. There were charges of cannibalism. Cannibalism. I'm not gonna go there because honestly, I could just say it is what it is. It's in a DNA. It's in the DNA. Just being honest. It's in the DNA. Cannibalism. Starving settlers dug up dead corpses out the graves to eat them, and others licked up the blood which had fallen from their weak fellows. Jamestown rediscovery archaeologists in 2012 uncovered the first forensic evidence of survival cannibalism in a European colony in North America. Damn, that's recent. 10 years ago. The Sea Venture survivors arrived from Bermuda in May 1610 to find only 60 colonists still alive in the fort out of 144 Hold up. I think there was more than 144 of them. I think there was 144 of them on each ship, if I'm not mistaken. But they only found 60 of them left? Come on. They was eating each other like that? Thomas Gates realized there would be further starvation within a few weeks. On June 7, 1610, he announced the colonists would abandon Jamestown and sail for England, but their path home was blocked by the arriving ship of the new governor of the colony, Lord Delaware, who insisted they return and rebuild Jamestown. Now, this is the first Anglo-Powhatan War. The first Anglo-Powhatan War was fought from 1609 until 1614 and pitted the English settlers at Jamestown against an alliance of the Algonquin-speaking Virginia Indians led by Powhatan. After the English arrived in Virginia in 1607, they struggled to survive through terrible drought and cold winters. Now, I got this here because you can look for it yourself. All you got to do is Google First Powhatan War. Moving on, Jamestown Colony. In 1606, England was ruled by King James I. We know this, right? The English people did not choose him as their leader because England was a monarchy, a government in which the ruler inherits his or her power. During this time, King James I gave a group of wealthy men permission to start a colony in North America. The group sent 105 men to settle in Virginia. They hoped the colony would make them richer. The settlers arrived in Virginia in May 1607, hoping to find gold. They chose a place near a river where the deep water allowed them to anchor their ships close by. So it's only for a fact that you're going to find the people that's indigenous to those lands by the water, because let's go all the way back to pre-dynastic time. Civilizations is always found next to water. Look at the Nile, right? Look at any civilization that you go to is by water. The site was upriver from Chesapeake Bay, but far enough from the river that Spanish ships could not easily attack the settlement. Located on a peninsula, the town would be easily defended by the land. The group built the settlement enclosed by the walls of a fort and named it Jamestown in honor of King James I. Unfortunately, the settlers built Jamestown on a marsh. The water around the town was dirty and salty, and the land was bad for farming. Worse still, mosquitoes in the marsh carried a deadly disease called malaria. By the end of 1607, disease and other hardship had killed many of the settlers. Look. This is the result of colonization. This is what happens. I mean, even though they wound up fucking shit up after, but because they were all angry and shit, because they came here thinking shit was going to be all sweet, and look, they was already fucking up. In 1607, some American Indians captured a Jamestown settler named Captain John Smith. They took Smith to their chief Powhatan. According to the story, Smith later told the chief, was about to kill him when Powhatan's young daughter Pocahontas saved his life. Many historians, however, think that Smith's life was never in real danger. After this incident, Pocahontas visited Jamestown several times. She and her people brought food to trade to the few surviving colonists. We've seen that in the movie and the cartoon. In January 1608, more men arrived from England. Many had come only to seek gold. So there were not enough people growing the food needed to feed the colony. Motherfuckers wasn't there to be doing no work. They didn't care about no fucking freedom. They didn't care about no land. Right? They didn't care about no motherfucking land. All they cared about was that gold. That gold. So, in September, John Smith became the leader of the colony. He knew that the settlement needed everyone's help to survive. He said that any man who would not work to maintain Jamestown would not eat. What? This is before starving time. Starving time was in 1609, 1610. So you telling me 1608, this motherfucker was like, yeah, you're not going to be able to eat if you're not working. So, I mean, of course they'd be mad. Okay, anywho, let's go on. In the summer of 1609, a new group of settlers arrived, including women and children. Don't tell me they was eating the babies. Ah, man, they was eating the Look, this is why these Hebrews and these Bible thumpers be saying that this Bible be prophesizing shit. Just because some shit be happening, but it's not like it be prophesizing anything. It's just part of their nature, I guess, these people. This shit is crazy. So don't tell me they was eating the babies, though. That's not like Matthew, what was that? Matthew 36 something? Where God was talking about how he said God is gonna make these people eat their children and make the wife eat the husband. I forget. Y'all know what look. If you know the Bible, you know what the fuck I'm talking about. That shit is in that Bible a few times. It's not just in Matthew's. It says the next month Smith returned to England after having been badly burned by an explosion of gunpowder. The colonists had lost a strong leader. To make matters worse, Powhatan stopped trading with them. Local tribes attacked the people they found outside the settlement. The winter of 1609 to 1610 was known as the starving time. Many settlers had to eat horses and dogs and cats and mice and people and children, as they already had said. I'm speculating on the children, but they already said they was digging up graves and eating people, so that's already there. Hundreds of people died. Only about 60 settlers survived in Jamestown when Sir Thomas Yates came from Bermuda and seen that it was left. The Jamestown settlers never found gold. Therefore, they needed another way to support their colony. Colonist John Rolfe. John Rolfe is the last dude that was in a Pocahontas movie that was with Pocahontas. That's the one that got her to England to make her convert to Christianity. He's the one that, I think they had children. Am I tripping? They had children? I think they had children. Colonist John Rolfe learned how to grow a new kind of tobacco. Tobacco. This is why all of the motherfuckers was smoking all these cigarettes and cigars and shit. Tobacco. The settlers planted this cash crop. In 1614, they began to trade their tobacco for money and supplies. People in England loved it. Tobacco became Virginia's gold. Virginia Slim. Meanwhile, oh yeah, I forgot Newports. Can't forget Newport, right? Meanwhile, Powhatan's people worried about so many settlers coming to their land. In 1614, John Rolfe married Pocahontas. For a time, the colonists and the American Indians were at peace. Pocahontas even went to England and met King James. That was in Pocahontas too. Before she could return, she got sick, and in 1617 she died. According to them, she got sick though. Nobody who's to say she got sick, right? Her peoples wasn't able to do no autopsy, right? They wasn't able to see. Did they see her body? I don't even think they talked about her bringing it back. See right there? House of Burgess. So here we go. Meanwhile, Jamestown was growing and changing. In 1619, the men elected representatives to make laws for the colony. This was the first representative government in an American colony. The people chose their leaders in the government. In this government, they called the governing body the House of Burgesses. If you know about the House of Burgesses, you know this shit's been around long enough to where this motherfucker George Washington was even a part of this motherfucking shit. They called the Burgess an English word for an elected representative. Only landowners could have this job. By now, Virginia's government was more democratic than England's. When Powhatan died, his brother became chief, and the peace between the American Indians and the settlers ended. In 1622, the new chief and his men attacked Jamestown and killed 347 colonists. 347, that's an area code. Fire. But Jamestown survived to become the first successful English settlement in North America. Now here, I wanted to just show this because why not? You know, this is the Disney fandom showing you this is him in Pocahontas 2. I don't think they showed him in the first one. But Pocahontas 2, when she went over there, see, Journey to a New World. So that's him. Inspiration, James the 6th and 1st. Other names, Pale-Faced Chief by Chief Powhatan and King Jimmy. Born in Edinburgh, Scotland, which is why he's named the Illustrious, because it's all that my son shit, that free my son, free my son, free my son. Freemason, free my son. Yeah. Next, we're gonna go to the timeline. Look at that. 1497, John Cabot lands in North America claiming it for England. Then you got 1587, colonists settle on Roanoke Island, then disappeared. That was dealing with Queen Elizabeth I. I think this one here, John Cabot possibly could have been the Frenchman, or he could have been the Spanish man, but I think he was the Frenchman. I gotta look. Cabot sounds French. I'm gonna check into that. Don't hold me on that. Look for yourself. Look, this is why I even got all his hair. You can see the links up there. You can look for yourself. This is why I got it there. Scroll back and look. The links is here. I'm not an I'm not an internalized capitalist. I'm not going to hold the information from you. 1607, Jamestown is settled in Virginia. That's the Virginia Company of London that we know of King James I and 6. 1619, the Virginia House of Burgesses is set up. What do we know about the Virginia House of Burgesses? Like I said, George Washington. The Pilgrims land in Massachusetts, 1620. 1635, Roger Williams arrives in Rhode Island. 1630s to 1640, which was around this time, you got the Great Migration that brings thousands of Puritans to Massachusetts. And if you know about the Puritans, you know they were the ones that took out the, I forgot. It's the Wanapog something. I forgot the indigenous names, but Thanksgiving. This is why we got it. 1675, natives rise up against the colonists in King Philip's War. So, here is the rules, right? I think this right here is the rules that these people were supposed to follow for this King James Version Bible. Because I'm going straight into the Bible, right? I'm going straight into the Bible. So, it says when King James, and you can look at the website right there, when King James commissioned the King James Version, he approved 15 principles of translation which were instituted by Richard Bancroft, the Bishop of London, in 1604. Richard Bancroft was the guy. Bancroft was the guy that supervised all of these scholars. Now, I didn't put the scholars up there. I think the names is there, but I didn't go through all the scholars because it's 54 of them, some shit like that. So, anywho, because and the only reason why I mentioned that is because I put the investors up there for the Virginia Company of London. But I didn't go deep into the scholars because I already know the scholars. So you can look into it though. These translate. I will hope you look into it. Don't just take this presentation here and run with it. Please look into all of this for yourself. These translations principles are as follows. 1. The ordinary Bible read in the church, commonly called the bishop's Bible, to be followed in as little altered as the truth of the original will permit. So this King James Version Bible technically is your bishop's Bible, which was a Bible that was already translated in English. The names of these prophets, for number 2, the names of the prophets and the holy writers with the other names of the text to be retained as nigh as may be, accordingly as they were vulgarly used. Right? The old eschatological words to be kept, the word church not to be translated, congregation, and etc. I believe that would be etc. I believe that's etc. So when a word have diverse significations that to be kept, which have been most commonly used by the most of the ancient fathers, being agreeable to the propriety of the place and the analogy of the faith. 5. The division of the chapters to be altered, either not at all or as little as may be, if necessity so require. So here again, he's telling these motherfuckers, don't touch it. Don't touch it. If you ain't got to touch it, don't touch it. Don't touch it. Because I kind of already fuck with the, oh, look, man, caught on the motherfucking wire. I already fuck with the original translation before this. Like, you know, I just want son of my own. This is what them my sons do. They try to leave a legacy. No marginal notes at all to be affixed, but only for the explanation of the Hebrew or Greek words, which cannot without some curricula locution so briefly and fitly be expressed in the text. Such quotations of places to be marginally set down as shall serve for the fit reference of one scripture to another. Every particular man of each company to take the same chapter or chapters and having translated or amended them severally by himself, where he thinketh good, all to meet together, confer what they have done, and agree for their parts what shall stand. Now, even though he allowed number 8, he still had Richard Bancroft, after they finished, bring him and read to him. And if he didn't like something, he told him, change that. But that's why he said, don't alter it too much, because I want to know what's being said so then I can change it and make it how I want it to sound. Now, 9, as any one company hath dispatched any one book in this manner, they shall send it to the rest to be considered of seriously and judiciously, for his majesty is very careful in this point. If any company upon the review of the book was so sent, doubt or differ upon any place to send them word therefore note the place, and withal send the reasons, to which if they consent not, the difference to be compounded at the general meeting, which is to be of the chief persons of each company at the end of the work. So basically, If somebody has an issue with what's being said, they got to make a note of it. They got to point it out. They got to have an explanation why. And they got to go to their higher up before they get to Richard Bancroft. So their higher up, who's the leader of that said company, has to say, I see why you say that. And if they don't say, I see why you say that, continue on, motherfucker. Let's keep on going. Let's work. Let's get this Bible out. We got the Virginia Company of London leaving. We got to motherfucker indoctrinate these heathen Indians, as they said, right? That's what they said in the beginning. They wanted to convert them to Christianity. Now, when any place or of special obscurity is doubted of, letters to be directed by authority to send to any learned man in the land for his judgment of such a place. Letters to be sent from every bishop to the rest of his clergy, admonishing them of this translation in hand, or admonishing them of this translation in hand, and to move in charge as many skillful in the tongues, which means if they can speak Hebrew or Greek, move it on to them. Because if your shit is a little fucked up, you know, they're not fucking with you. So, and having taken pains in that kind to send his particular observations to the company either at, Westminster, right? We seen that earlier. Westminster, Cambridge, or Oxford. Huh? Oxford. Now, I didn't show that. Like, if I had the fucking bombs, I'd be playing the bombs right now. But I didn't show that for a boom. I showed that shit just to show these motherfuckers is controlling the information. The directors in each company to be the deans of Westminster and Chester for that place, and the king's professors in the Hebrew or Greek in either university. 14. These translations to be used when they agree better with the text than the bishop's Bible. Tynesdale's, Matthew's, Coverdale's, witch churches, and the Geneva. If you know about the Geneva, that was used during the transatlantic slave trade, mainly by these slave owners. I think it was also used in the Spanish Inquisition. I'm not too sure. Besides the said directors before mentioned, 3 or 4 of the most ancient and grave divines in either of the universities not employed in translating to be assigned by the vice chancellor upon conference with the rest of the heads to be overseers of the translations as well as Hebrew as Greek, for the better observation of the 4th rule above specified. So I'm not going to read this guy's shit because this is his interpretation of what we just read. But as you see, there were some rules to this, and as you see, there were other translations, English translations before the KJV, right? You see the Bishop's translation. You see the Tynesdale's translation. Oh, Bishop's, Tynesdale, the Matthews, right? The Coverdales, the Whitchurches, the Geneva. Tynesdale is one of the most popular Bibles actually that was out there, because that's where most of these motherfuckers get their shit from. I think the Bishop's Bible is the Great Bible, if I'm not mistaken, though. But William Tyndale, huh? William Tyndale was a English biblical scholar and a linguist who became a leading figure in the Protestant Reformation in the years leading up to his execution. He is well known as a translator of the Bible into English and was influenced by the works of prominent Protestant reformers such as Martin Luther. Martin Luther, I just read something about him too. He had some part in this winter solstice shit. He was trying to make Christ Mass on December 5th. But yeah, Tyndale. So as you see, the Protestant, King James the first and the 6th was a Protestant. Where it says right here, he died October 6, 1536, near Brussels, Brabant. He was an English biblical translator, a humanist, and a Protestant martyr. Tyndale was educated at the University of Oxford and became an instructor at the University of Cambridge, where in 1521 he fell in with a group of humanist scholars meeting at the White Horse Inn. The White Horse Inn. I don't know. Every time I see that, it just reminds me of this pale horse. This pale horse. But anywho, Tyndale became convinced that the Bible alone should determine the practices of doctrines. And, they got cut off right there. Because of the influence of printing and a demand for scriptures in the vernacular, William Tyndale began working on a New Testament translation directly from the Greek in 1523. Not Hebrew, but Greek. And if you know, what was translated from the Hebrew was just Greek, which was, I think it was Paleo Hebrew, which is like close to Greek. But anywho, it was basically all interpretation of the Greek, just like hieroglyphics, which is Medu Neter, but it was called hieroglyphics because we're going off of the Greeks' interpretation of what is on the walls of Nubia, Egypt, so forth. After church authorities in England prevented him from translating the Bible there, he went to Germany in 1524. Germany, where you get the Codex Gigas, the Codex Armanus, I think it's called, which is the first it's one of the first Bibles. And then you got the Holy Roman Empire over there too. Receiving financial support from wealthy London merchants. I wonder who that was. His New Testament translation was completed in July 1525 and printed in Cologne. Again, under pressure this time from the city authorities, Tyndale fled to Worms, where 2 more editions were published in 1525. The first copies were smuggled into England in 1526, where they were at once proscribed. Man, sounds like a my son. Sound like a my son. Oh, my fault. I did kind of show a little bit of the people here. So, anywho, the history of the English Bible and the history of the Christian church meet in the Protestant Reformation. The first handwritten English language Bible manuscripts were produced in the 1380s AD by John Wycliffe, an Oxford professor. Who is an Oxford professor? Actually, he was educated at Oxford. Let's get more into it, right? Produced in 1380. We talk about a guy that was born in 1490. So he's learning the works of John Wycliffe, who was an Oxford professor, scholar, and theologian. Wycliffe, also spelled Wycliffe and Wycliffe, I don't even know why I said it 3 times. You see it right there. Was well known throughout Europe for his opposition to the teaching of the organized church, which he believed to be contrary to the Bible. With the help of his followers called the Lollards, I got a tab open on my phone with the Lollards. There's some shit called a Lardy or a Lordy, some shit like that. I got to look more into it. But and his assistant Purvey and many other faithful scribes. Wycliffe produced dozens of English language manuscripts. That's what the motherfucker is called. The manuscript, the first manuscript in Germany. There you go. English language manuscript copies of the scriptures. They were translated out of the Latin Vulgate, which was the only source text available to Wycliffe. The Pope was so infuriated by his teachings and his translation of the Bible into English that 44 years after Wycliffe had died, he ordered the bones to be dug up, crushed, and scattered into the damn river. Why? Because he translated it from what? Latin Vulgate. Latin Vulgate. Vulgate. Latin. One of Wycliffe's followers, John Huss, actively promoted Wycliffe's ideas that people should be permitted to read the Bible in their own language, and they should oppose the tyranny of the Roman Church that threatened anyone possessing a non-Latin Bible with execution. Huss was burned at the stake in 1415 with Wyclif's manuscript Bibles used as kindling for the fire. Ooh, I could relate a little bit to that though. I definitely used we definitely use I say I'm not gonna do the we. I definitely used the Bible as some hand warmers one time on the barbecue, on the grill, grilling up some scripture. It was the last words of Huss were that in 100 years God will raise up a man whose calls for reform cannot be suppressed. That's where we disagree though, my man. Almost exactly 100 years later, in 1517, Martin Luther nailed his famous 95 D's of contention, a list of 95 issues of heretical theology and crimes of the Roman Catholic Church, into the church door at Wittenberg. The prophecy of Huss had come true. Martin Luther went on to be the first person to translate and publish the Bible in commonly spoken dialect of the German people, the Holy Roman Empire, a translation more appealing than previous German biblical translations. Fox's book on martyrs records that in that same year, 1517, 7 people were burned at the stake by the Roman Catholic Church for the crime of teaching their children to say the Lord's Prayer in English rather than Latin. That's fucking crazy, right? Ain't that crazy? People were getting killed for speaking English, which kind of makes this inclusive mentality, come about to where now motherfuckers really want to speak English because they don't want to speak Latin no more. Why would I want to speak Latin? These motherfuckers, we don't even look at God the same way. The Pope, Papas, or Caesar, right? He's greedy with power. Grammarly, shout out to Grammarly. Shakespeare's influence on the English language. So here's some food for thought. Because why did I bring up Shakespeare? Because we know Shakespeare and the Bible, this is debunking another myth. Because they said Shakespeare, some people say Shakespeare wrote the Bible. No, he did not write the Bible. All right? I mean, it would have been cool. I would love to say, yeah, Shakespeare wrote the Bible, so it's bullshit because it's like some motherfucking Othello type shit. But no, he didn't write the Bible. So, before Shakespeare's time, written English was, on the whole, not standardized. His works contributed significantly to the standardization of grammar, spelling, and vocabulary. Shakespeare introduced 1,700 original words into the language, many of which we still use despite significant change to the language since Shakespeare's time. Those words include lonely, frugal, dwindle, and many more. In addition to all these words, many phrases that we use daily originated in Shakespeare's work. When you talk about breaking the ice or having a heart of gold, or when you use any number of other phrases, you're using Shakespeare's language. Finally, Shakespeare had a profound impact on poetry and literature that had lasted centuries. He perfected blank verse, which became a standard in poetry. Herman Melville, William Faulkner, Alfred Lord Tennyson, and Charles Dickens were all heavily influenced by Shakespeare. The impact led George Steiner to conclude that Romantic English poets were feeble variations of Shakespearean themes. I think Shakespeare probably was a brother. I'm not, don't hold me on it. I'm just saying, we usually inspire a lot though. We usually be the motherfuckers that be inspiring a lot. But if you, look, we're going to get to it anyway because it's in the next slide. Because of the profound impact of Shakespeare's language on the way we speak today, studying the works of Shakespeare is an indispensable part of cultural education. Exploring the thousand of ways we still use Shakespeare's language and the themes is not only worthwhile and fascinating, but also fun. So we know the English language that we know of today that we're using, that I'm speaking, right? That we speak was inspired, well, not even inspired, but created by Shakespeare. But now we also know this. It was not just the influence of the prose and language. The actual stories themselves were hugely influential on the 18th and 19th century writers. Novels like Moby Dick and The Old Man and the Sea are inspired by the King James Bible. The influence went beyond literature and provided inspiration for many hymns and musical compositions, such as Handel's most famous 18th century piece, Messiah. However, the King James Bible did not only influence United Kingdom culture, but went on to have a worldwide presence. The King James Bible first traveled overseas when the Puritan group known as the Pilgrims Fathers set sail for America on the Mayflower in 1620. Their plan was to set up a new civilization more in keeping with their Puritan ideals. Having taken the Bible with them, it was soon established at the center of America's religious culture. The Bible and missionary societies of St. Paul's Cathedral also imported the Bible throughout the world, with the simple vocabulary lending itself to translation into foreign languages and as a useful tool for teaching and learning the English language. The growth of the British Empire was also a great mechanism for spreading the English language, and the King James Bible was also stowed aboard the great merchant navy ships, becoming the first English book that many would encounter worldwide. We've seen them earlier. The East India Company alone saw it travel to India, into the colonies in Africa, Australia, and New Zealand, where the indigenous people were. Another reason why English is now a dominant world language, which is what a lot of Hebrews don't understand because they love the King James Version Bible, and I get it because they once were Christians, they once were Catholics, they got their butt hurt. Now they want to be Hebrew Israelites because they think because the Bible geographically takes place where there were black people, even though you can't identify people as a motherfucking color, which is an adjective. These people weren't the same type of people. These people were Phoenicians. They were not the Africans. They were more Indian. I digress. But the King James Bible had contributed to 257 phrases to the English language, more than any other single source, including the works of Shakespeare. Expressions such as a fly in the ointment, thorn in the side, and do we see eye to eye? Do we see eye to eye? That's some Mason shit? That's what you're saying? That's crazy. Which are still commonly used today, all originated in the Bible, the King James Version Bible. Willis, it is the revised, grammatically correct 18th century version of the Bible produced by Benjamin Blaney that is more commonly used today. The lasting appeal of the King James Bible cannot be argued. For those who worship Christianity to those who worship our cultural heritage, the King James Bible represents the English literature and language that we hold dear, as well as enduring instrument in faith. Ironically, the translation, which was an impulsive suggestion at King James Conference of 1604, is in fact the enduring artifact of these discussions. The King James Bible Trust has been established to celebrate the 400th anniversary of the first English translation of the Bible. And a lot of Hebrews, again, they love to say this Bible is created by this black king, right? And it's for us because they think he is part of this Jacob shit, this Israel. Is it real? Is it really, right? Is it real? Shout out to Steve Coakley, by the way, put me onto that phrase. But real talk though, is it real? Jacob is just, again, what we seen earlier, Hebrew for James. This motherfucker wasn't black. Is he the color of this background right here? That's why I don't even like using that shit to identify people. I mean, we got people that is dark, but come on, it's not everybody. Now, the first Africans, we're getting in now into transatlantic slave trade because this was the purpose of basically bringing King James into this anyway. So, as we know, Mary the first and Elizabeth the first set the tone for their nephew, their grandson, whatever he is to them, right? Now we got the first Africans. The first Africans arrived in Virginia because of the transatlantic slave trade. Across 3.5 centuries from 1501 to 1867, more than 12.5 million Africans were captured, sold, and transported to the Americas. While Portugal and Spain were the first European powers engaged in this trade, eventually, most of the European powers would get involved. It was as profitable as it was brutal. We're not going to talk about how these Europeans were able to trade and buy these slaves, because that don't even matter. I mean, we know there were tribes that were selling their own people. We know about all of this. So we just talk about the involvement, though, of this man that has this Bible that a lot of people have in their home right now. a lot of people don't want to get rid of, and they say it's their favorite Bible because of the translation, even though the translation, as they say, is always being modernized. The Africans who came to Virginia in 1619 had been taken from Angola and West Central Africa. They were captured in a series of wars that were part of a much broader Portuguese hostilities against the Congo and Dongo kingdoms and other states. These captives were then forced to march 100 to 200 miles to the coast of the major slave trade port of Luanda. They were put on board of the San Juan Bautista, which carried 350 captives bound for Veracruz on the coast of Mexico in the summer of 1619. I hope I got the name of the ships, because if you ain't know, one of the ships' names is Jesus. Yeah. One of the ships' names is Jesus. Nearing her destination, the slave ship was attacked by 2 English privateers, the White Lion and the Treasurer, in the Gulf of Mexico, and robbed of 50 to 60 Africans. The 2 privateers then sailed to Virginia, where the White Lion arrived at Point Comfort, or present-day Hampton, Virginia, toward the end of August. These motherfuckers was fighting each other over Come on. This is a Holocaust. I mean, it technically isn't. You know what? I got to stop saying that, because Holocaust is sacrifice burned on an altar. Yeah, a sacrificial offering burned on an altar. So I got to stop saying that, because my people weren't burned. They were brutalized and killed. John Rolfe, a prominent planter and merchant, and formerly the husband of Pocahontas, reported that 20 and odd Negroes were bought for victuals, italics added. The majority of the Angolians were acquired by wealthy and well-connected English planters, including Governor Sir George Yeardley and the Cape of Head or head merchant Abraham Piercy. The Africans were sold into bondage despite Virginia having no clear-cut laws sanctioning slavery. The treasurer arrived at Point Comfort a few days after the White Lion, but did not stay long, quickly setting sail for the English colony of Bermuda. Now I just want to say, please subscribe. I forgot to say that in the beginning. I gotta get one of those buttons. Look, I'm new to this. I'm gonna be a professional YouTuber soon, but subscribe. This information here. Look, I went through some time for this information because even though I'm using these links, I had to do a whole lot of reading other scholarships just to make sure that these were credible. All right, this is just, it's easy on the eyes. This is why I got this here. The treasurer arrived at, so prior to leaving port, however, it is possible that 7 to 9 Africans were sold, including a woman, Angelo, who was taken to Captain William Pierce's Jamestown property, which Jamestown rediscovery archaeologists excavated in partnership with the National Park Service. By March 1620, 32 Africans were recorded in a muster as living in Virginia, but by 1625, only 23 were recorded. These Africans scattered throughout homes and farms of the James River Valley, where they were the first of hundreds of thousands of Africans forced to endure slavery in colonial English America. Damn. African Americans at Jamestown. Do I gotta read this? Yeah, I do. The first documented arrival of Africans to the colony of Virginia was recorded by John Rolfe about the latter end of August. A Dutchman of war, remember Delaware, of the burden of 160 tuns arrived at Point Comfort. The Commodore's named Captain Jope, his pilot for the West Indies, or Mr. Marmaduke, an Englishman. You know Marmaduke the dog? Okay. He bought not only anything but 20 and odd Negroes, which the governor and Cape merchant bought for victuals. The year was 1619, and as institution slavery did not yet exist in Virginia. Slavery as we know it today evolved gradually, beginning with customs rather than laws. To further shed light on how this institution evolved legally from indentured servitude to lifelong servitude, the following laws and our facts are given, as well as other sources on the 17th century servitude among blacks in Virginia. Landing in Virginia in 1607, the first Virginians arrived 13 years before the Pilgrims. I'm gonna need some water for this one. This right here is gonna show you. Look, they arrived 13 years before the Pilgrims landed in Massachusetts. The 104 men, right, that was on the Virginia Company of London, they landed on the unfamiliar land and sought to find the precious yellow metal they came for right away, the gold. However, the goals turned out to be much more difficult than planned, as they were unprepared to handle harsh winters and malaria, which is from the mosquitoes, right? And starving time, 1609, where they was eating each other, cannibalism. The neighboring Powhatan, the neighboring Powhatan Indian tribe helped the colonists in times of need by providing them with food and other necessities in exchange for goods such as copper. Unfortunately, the Powhatans were never able to direct the Jamestown settlers to the goal. One of the major problems that the Jamestown settlement faced was the fact that most of the first colonists were wealthy gentlemen who were not used to manual labor and did not possess any useful skills. Many of the men spent countless hours looking for gold instead of putting their efforts towards building and hunting. Therefore, much of their energy was wasted and their pursuit of gold was in vain. What turned out to be the true gold for Virginia was tobacco, shown how to use the plant by the natives. The settlers learned a great deal about tobacco. By 1639, Jamestown had exported 750 tons of tobacco. They came into Jamestown 1619, the Africans. We talk about 1639. Yeah. Slavery expansion and the Powhatan Wars. The sale of tobacco crops had not only saved Jamestown, but made it rich. And this encouraged the arrival of the more colonists. So this is how they got more people to come over here, whether as landowners or indentured servants, who wanted to make their fortune on the crop as well. The same year that saw the establishment of the House of Burgesses brought the first Africans to the colony. So the same motherfucking establishment that George Washington was part of brought these Africans over. 20 of whom were bought by Sir George Yeardley, making him Virginia's first slave owner. Some scholars question whether these first Africans were treated as slaves and argue that they were considered more along the lines of indentured servants. We don't know that. They're probably just trying to motherfucking be trying to just lessen the blow, you know, like, nah, don't be too mad at us. Like, we was trying to treat y'all like humans. Get the fuck out of here, right? So evidence does suggest the presence of free blacks in colonial Jamestown, and certainly by 1676, there were black landowners, and at least on record as owning black slaves himself. I wonder if they're talking about the guy from Angola. Damn, what was his name? I forgot his name. But he wound up owning a slave, and he owned a slave for the rest of his life. Dude, African man owning another African in America. Even if the Africans were not treated as slaves, however, they arrived in that condition aboard a Dutch ship which had captured them as cargo from a Spanish trader. Slavery would not become institutionalized in Virginia until the 1660s, but the first African slaves can be said to have arrived in the colony in 1619. Yeardley put his new slaves or servants to work in the tobacco fields, his own being only one among the many which were expanded further into the Native American lands. The more colonists arrived, the more land was required for settlements, farms, and tobacco plantations, and the Powhatan Confederacy finally had enough. Wahan Sanaka had been succeeded by his half-brother, I'm not going to butcher his name because I couldn't even say the other one, who in 1622 launched that what came to be known as the Indian Massacre of 1622 and the start of the Second Powhatan War, which we showed the First Powhatan War earlier. Killing over 300 colonists, the House of Burgesses passed legislation organizing the militia of the settlements and the establishments of defenses. The legislators would do the same later during the Third Powhatan War. Look, they fought these people 3 times. 1644 to 1646, and again after Bacon's Rebellion of 1676. After this event, during which indentured servants had participated in a revolt led by landowner Nathaniel Bacon, the House of Burgess first order of business was relations between the colonists and Native Americans. This would remain on an ongoing concern of the assembly in the following years. Although the Burgesses continually sought to pass laws and enforce policies they thought fair to both indigenous peoples and immigrants, they failed to recognize that they were very presence. They failed to recognize that their very presence on the land previously used by Native American tribes was central to all the other problems they tried to address. And further, as more lands were taken for settlements and plantations, land theft was justified by laws addressing what was thought best for the indigenous people. Damn. The assembly continued to meet as unicameral, political body, meaning a single legislative body, whenever called to order until 1642. When it was divided into a bicameral body of the House of Burgesses and the Council of State, these two houses would become more well-defined and autonomous over the years and served as the nexus and served as hold on. Whoops. It served as the nexus for opposition to British rule by colonies in the late 18th century, 8th century CE. So many of the founders, it says, including George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and many of the founding fathers, including George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and Patrick Henry, were members of the House of Burgesses and instrumental in establishing its successor, the General Assembly, comprised of a Senate and a House of Delegates to 1776. Damn. A number of scholars in the modern era have argued for the claim that the House of Burgesses, which informed the creation of the United States government, was directly influenced by Native American forms of government, but this claim is consistently challenged. Hold on, I'm being texted. All right, here we go. Native American democracy, a democratic form of government, had been established in North America over 1,000 years before the first English colonists set foot on the land. Although many indigenous nations practiced this form of government, it is best documented for the Iroquois Confederacy, which stretched from modern-day Canada down through North Carolina, where you got Carolina rice from. The tribes once fought each other in constant wars over food and water supplies until the arrival of the great peacemaker Dekanawida, who inspired his two best known disciples, Hiawatha and later Tododaho, to spread the message of peace and power through unity. So the legislators would, hold on, my fault. The legislators would do the same later during the Third Powhatan War, and again after Bacon's Rebellion of 1676. After this event, during which indentured servants had participated in a revolt led by landowner Nathaniel Bacon, the House of Burgesses recognized the danger of continuing to import indentured servants. Damn, I be trying to tell people I'm live, but they don't listen. It is what it is. I can't get mad. It is what it is. The House of Burgesses recognized the danger of continuing to import indentured servants who would be rewarded once they completed the terms of their service with land which equaled political power. Indentured servitude was discontinued, and slavery was further institutionalized to continue harvesting the tobacco crop, which is crazy. They use institutionalize. Who does the institutionalization? Schools, college, right? Grade school, prison, an asylum. I'm just saying. Although the first order of business of the House of Burgesses had been the protection of Native American rights and property, this legislation was forgotten as profits from tobacco sales increased and more land was required for plantations. Conclusion. The Virginia Company was dissolved in 1624, and the English government took direct control of the North American colonies. The House of Burgesses, however, continued to meet and pass legislation in accordance with the policies of the English government. In 1634, the Assembly divided the ever-expanding colony into counties and reorganized representation, and the Assembly was changed to a decameral body in 1642 of the House of Burgesses and the Council of State. In 1676, during Bacon's rebellion, Jamestown was burned and the government moved to the area of the Middle Plantation, later known as Williamsburg. Now we get into the role of these Africans. What was they doing with them? The Royal African Company. Yes, the Royal African Company was another company like the Virginia Company of London and the Plymouth Company and the East India Company and the Muscovy Company. So, the Royal African Company supplying slaves to Jamestown. The start of English slave trade. As early as 1618, King James the First had granted a patent to a company that wanted to trade for gold and precious woods in Africa. Other groups also received rights to trade in Africa, but never dealt with slaves in any major way. English involvement in the slave trade will intensify after 1663, when a new patent was issued to the Company of Royal Adventurers. England had realized the money to be trading slaves to the West Indies and Virginia. By 1668, over a quarter of the new company's profits were derived from the slave trade. Africans in Virginia's early years. The first documented arrival of the Africans in Virginia was in 1619. We just read that earlier, when an English warship, the White Lion. So we're getting some more context with this White Lion. Remember, the White Lion was one of the ships that stole these Africans from another ship, right? So the White Lion arrived at Point Comfort in present-day Hampton. The African captives had been forcibly removed from a Portuguese slave ship subsequent to being attacked by the White Lion and another English warship, the Treasurer, while sailing in the Bay of... So instead of going and trying to do deals the way the Portuguese and the French was in Africa, they said, we're just going to steal you motherfuckers. We're gonna steal them. That's crazy. By the way, if you haven't liked the video, let me know that you're enjoying the content and you're learning something. Also, share. It's always good to share the information. Don't be an internalized capitalist. Look, this is information that you probably didn't know. It's information that a lot of people don't know, because I already looked to try to see if this information was out there and packed and packaged like this, and it's not. So here we go. The African, where was I? The White Lion's English captain, John Jope, carried letters of marque from the Dutch Prince Maurice. Maurice sounds like more. But yeah, it could be. Making it legal for his ship to sail as a privateer and attack any Spanish or Portuguese ships it encountered. The 20 and odd Africans on the White Lion were traded. You see how they put that in quotations? Because that was John Rolfe's, his what he said. They were traded to colony officials for food. These Africans were much needed workers to cultivate tobacco, the new cash crop of Virginia. The institution of slavery slowly crept into Virginia legislation. By 1660, slavery as we think of it today was established in Virginia. Tobacco was extremely labor intensive and more workers were needed. The sale of Africans to Virginia's planters promised to be a profitable endeavor. The Dutch East India Company. We seen what they were, right? Yeah, the East India Company. We look, we there. We there. This is what we're talking about right now. So it has been estimated that during the 17th and 18th centuries, 660,000 to 1,135,000, 1,135,000 enslaved people in total must have been transported to the territories under control of the Dutch East India Company. Second, there was the slave trade carried out by the VOC subjects with privately owned ships. Who is the VOC? The Virginia. Is that the Virginia Company in London? Maybe. De facto government. De facto. That's what I said. King James. These motherfuckers that came to establish Virginia. De facto. The House of Burgess was de facto. This wasn't agreed with upon the people that was giving them the land, I'm pretty sure. De facto government means a government that comes into or remains in power by means not provided for in the members' constitution or other applicable laws of the country, such as by a coup d'etat, revolution, usurpation, abrogation, or suspension of the constitution or other relevant laws. These people had their own laws. They had their own way of life. They was already living amongst each other. They had a confederacy. That's what it said. A democracy. So, coup d'etat legal definition is the sudden, violent overthrow of an existing government by a small group. There was 144 of them. That's a small group compared to a bunch of. Come on. We not gonna go there. There was millions of these people. They committed genocide. Where we at? Revolution. They had the American Revolution, 1776. The House of Burgess, one of the members, George Washington, right? Usually means radical changes, that something is turned upside down, or upheaval of power structures as well as economical and social systems. When we are studying media on the level of access, uses, and meaning, I do not find the concept of revolution adequate. On the basis of my own studies, I don't know who wrote this definition, but we already know what a revolution is. Absorption or usurpation, meaning taking someone's power or property by force. Where was that at? They took by force, right? Hold up. They took by force. They had the first Anglo-Powhatan War. They had the second one and the third one. There was a force. England's laws, language, and religion were transplanted to a new place, laying the foundations for what will become the United States of America. Wow. By force. John Moline, I don't even know how to say his name. This right here was a Scottish master Mason, the first of the three successive generations of the name to serve as a master mason to the crown of Scotland. He was born in Dundee into a family of master builders. Now, he had been a master mason to both James III and James VI. He was the son of Thomas Moline, master mason to the crown and Burgess of Dundee. Yeah. So, Moline was a master mason of the lodge at Scone at the time when the Masons' lodges were moving away from being simply craft guilds, and he admitted King James VI to the lodge as a free man mason. This is why they call him the illustrious king. If you want any more details, look at this. King of Scotland and the first Stuart King of England. English historians have tended to portray him as a coward and a fussy, foolish pedant. The wisest fool in Christendom. In fact, he was reasonably successful in his main goals, increasing national prosperity, maintaining peace with Europe, and settling the church. Today, he is remembered for commissioning the so-called King James Bible or Authorized Version. On the west wall of the Lodge Hall used by Lodge Schoon in Perth number 3 in Perth, Scotland, can be found in a mural depicting James VI kneeling at their altar at his initiation. I got to get that picture up. You see it right there, though. You can pause it and you can look that up. I got to get that picture, too. The oldest existing agreement of December 24th, 1658 records that James was entered Freemason and Fellow Craft of the Lodge of Schoon on April 15th, 1601. Here you go right here. The contract or mutual agreement of 1658. All right? It's right there. The contract or mutual agreement of December 24th, which is today, 1658 claims that on April 15th, 1601, James was initiated by his own Royal Master Mason, John Moline II. And as soon John Moline being after his father's preferred to the said office, and Mr. Off, the said lodge and the what the fuck is going on here? I feel like I'm having a stroke. Is this what a stroke feels like? The words is looking kind of crazy over here. Second John Moline was be the king of his own desire, enter Freeman. Okay, look. Anywho, this right here is John Moline. This is his tomb, as we can see, and it says, Master Mason to James VI, who about, I wish I could motherfucking show that, just highlight it, but it says it right there, right? I'm gonna leave that there for a little bit. Master Mason, though. Next, William Lynch, the untold story of 1712. We're not going into William Lynch because I don't give a fuck about no pseudo. This is pseudo. This is propaganda. You know, this is not real. But the reason why I'm using it though is to show my son, King James, the first and sixth, as our boat sailed south on the James River, named for our illustrious king, whose version of the Bible we cherish. As our boat sailed south on the James River in Jamestown, named for our illustrious king, whose version of the Bible we cherish, I saw enough to know your problem is not unique. While Rome used cords of wood as crosses for standing human bodies along its old highways in great numbers, you are here using the tree and rope on occasion. I caught a whiff of a dead slave hanging from a tree a couple miles back. You are not only losing valuable stocks by hanging, you are having uprising slaves and whatever, because it don't fucking matter. Because look, William Lynch wasn't real. This William Lynch here would take you away from this William Lynch here. Captain William Lynch was a man from Pittsylvania County, Virginia. He claimed to be the source of the terms lynch law and lynching. Charles Lynch. Charles Lynch was a Virginia planter, politician, and American revolutionary who headed an irregular court in Virginia to punish loyalist supporters of the British during the American Revolutionary War. The terms lynching and lynch law are believed to be derived from his name. So, with that being said, it's taking the blame out of one of these people. I mean, they're both, look, 1742, 1820. 1736 to 1796. These people both existed. This guy here, 1712. I'm just saying, around the same time. Now, George Villiers. Why am I bringing up George Villiers, the first Duke of Buckingham? You know, it's funny too, because he was in here. He was in here. Is it somewhere in here? Because if you watch the movie, he was one of his special guests. He was one of his special guests that came to the ball for the Pocahontas shit. Shit is crazy. Yeah. But George Villiers, first Duke of Buckingham, also called Sir George Villiers, Baron Wadon, Viscount Villiers, Earl of Buckingham. That's how you'll see him in the Pocahontas movie. Earl of Buckingham. Marquis of Buckingham. Brooksby, Leicestershire, England. He died, he was born there, and then he died in Portsmouth, Hampshire. All right. Royal favorite and statesman who virtually ruled England during the last years of King James I and the first years of the reign of Charles I. Woo! I'm going to need some water for that one. Because it's about to get crazy. About to get crazy. A little crazy. Look, we at the end. About to get a little crazy. So, Buckingham was extremely unpopular, and the failure of his aggressive, erratic foreign policy increased the tensions that eventually exploded in the civil war between the royalists and the parliamentarians. George Villiers' father was a knight and a sheriff in Leicestershire. Introduced to James I in August 1614, the charming, handsome Villiers soon replaced the Scottish favorite Robert Carr, Earl of Somerset, in the king's esteem. Robert Carr, we got him too. But look, they said the Scottish favorite, Robert Carr. The Scottish, you know, King James, yeah, we know King James I is also Scottish. That's where you get his name Stuart from. It was the Stuart. It was once a title, right? A job title, and then they became from stewards, right? Like a stewardess or a steward to a Stuart. His relationship with James became sexual. That's why I got, that's why I got Britannica right there. That's why I got the information. His relationship with James became sexual, and he retained the king's passionate support to the end of the latter's life. He became master of the horse in 1616, Earl of Buckingham in 1617, and Lord High Admiral in 1619. By using his power both to elevate and to enrich his relatives, he alienated the upper classes from the crown. This right here, what this say? The house was expanded by James to accommodate his princely recreation and commodious entertainment. Restoration of Aparthorpe Palace between 2004 and 2008 revealed a previously unknown passage linking the bedchambers of James and Villiers. I hope I didn't say that too loud for you, but it's connecting their bedchambers because they had a sexual relationship, which is why this motherfucker didn't fuck with the Catholic Church in the first place, even though the Catholic Church is known for fucking with little boys in the first place. Shit don't make sense. Maybe that's why he didn't fuck with the Catholic Church. Maybe that's why. LGBTQ community, don't come at me. I'm just saying, maybe that's why they had that sexual relationship and he became a Protestant and he created the motherfucking King James Version Bible, which goes against the Catholic Bible because he got touched by one of them clergymen. I'm just saying. It says it right here. Look. A secret tunnel between the chambers of James VI and First and George Villiers, Duke of Buckingham. Damn. It's a doorway. Revealed this doorway. Dating back from 1622 to 1624. Good grief. Robert Carr, Earl of Somerset. Didn't we just read that? He replaced him. Look, this wall, look, this secret passage here for this motherfucker here, because he replaced this motherfucker here. So was this motherfucker here when this shit was here? Or was this motherfucker the reason why this motherfucker was here? Because this motherfucker was it. Ah, man, this shit is crazy. Shit is crazy. Robert Carr, Earl of Somerset, favorite of King James I of England from 1607 to 1615. Right? Because that's what it says anyway up in here. 1614, that's when he was introduced. Ew. Ew. That's when he was introduced to James. And then look, 1615 said, you gotta go. You gotta go. You gotta pack your shit. You gotta go, my guy. Somebody replacing you. His influence on governmental policy was slight, but he brought discredit on James' court by his involvement in a scandal. Son of a Scottish nobleman, the handsome Carl Nobleman. Nobleman could have been a more. The handsome Carl first attracted James' interest in 1607. The king soon made him a gentleman of the bedchamber, and thereafter he rose rapidly in royal favor. Maybe this was here for Robert Carr, and then they used it for George Villiers. Becoming Viscount Rochester in 1611 and Privy Councillor in April 1612. Upon the death of the Chief Minister Robert Cecil, Earl of Salisbury in May 1612, Carl began to serve as James' secretary. Meanwhile, he had fallen in love with Frances Howard, wife of Robert Derival. Oh, shit. Hold up. Robert, I know I seen that motherfucking name somewhere. Robert Derival, 2nd Earl of Essex. Oh, Bartholomew Gosnell, who was born in Suffolk on the eastern coast of England. In 1571, he joined him on an expedition to Azores in 1597. I'm going to have to look up and see what Azores is. I'm surprised I didn't do that already. Wow. I'm surprised I even got the clip. I went all the way and got the correct slide on the first try. That was cool. So mans was fucking with his wife. Crazy. Dude that basically invested in the Virginia Company of London. These motherfuckers is close. What type of shit is going on? Shit, everybody is like in cahoots with each other. Everybody know everybody. 3rd Earl of Essex, he persuaded James to have a commission annual Francis marriage. And during these proceedings, Francis, probably with Carl's assistance, secretly poisoned Carl's former friend and mentor, Sir Thomas Overbury, who had opposed that annulment. Carl and Francis were married in December 1613, shortly after Carl had been made Earl of Somerset and Treasurer of Scotland. He had become Lord Chamberlain in 1614, but in the following year, the circumstances of Overbury's death were made public. Somerset and Francis were found guilty of murder. They were in prison until 1621 and pardoned fully in 1624. Carl dies 21 years later in obscurity. Damn, 1624. That's going back to motherfucking George Villiers again. You know what? This shit is crazy though. as you see, King James is the reason why motherfuckers is speaking English. So if you think that we're speaking English because this is prophecy or God's plan or God's words and whatever, something with God. God is the figure of your imagination anyway. But if you motherfucking think that we're speaking English because of him and not because of King James and even his Portuguese uncle, King Philip, right? Who was married to his aunt, Queen Elizabeth the First. Am I not mistaken? That was Queen Elizabeth, or was that was Mary? My fault. Mary, his aunt Mary the First, right? No. Hold up. Mary the First. Is this King James' mother? Nah, it's not. This is Mary the First of England, not Mary of Scots. Tripping. Anywho, look, I've been on here long enough. I'm not usually used to doing these lives, but I hope you click thumbs if you like it. If you didn't like it, click thumbs down. I don't even give a fuck. You like it, show you like it. If you didn't like it, show you didn't like it. Comment, subscribe. If you fucking with me, I got more content like this coming soon. I got a whole bunch of presentations I have religion. I have the Masons, the Masons. I have the sickness, that CRISPR, that vid, that new influenza or rhino, whatever the fuck you want to motherfucker call it, that BNT 162B2 shit. I got presentations on presentations on presentations. Just let me know you want to learn. Let me know you want to also engage, because I would like to do these lives not by myself, but also with people that are watching, engaging, and supporting the whole movement of expanding the knowledge and sharing the knowledge, because that's what Gifted Mind State is all about. Not just knowledge itself, but knowledge, period, because knowledge is power. Knowledge will set you free. The truth will set you free. As long as you keep on researching and don't end your researches, just like these motherfuckers who wind up delving into these religions without looking into other religions and making a conscious decision that this is something they really don't need. But, you know, it is what it is. It's a tool. It's a tool. I'm not going to bash people for, you know, believing in dogma, right? And I hate the word believe anyway, because believe means to accept something to be true, even though there's no evidence to prove it's true. And that's why we don't rock with the sheep. You feel me? Like, that's why we got the sheep here. Cause that's what we all about. We all about helping the sheep, because the sheep are, as the definition would say, the believers or followers of God. Then it's not just these things in the back of me, right? But I'm gonna land there. It's your guy, Young Eli. Check out my other YouTube channel, Who is Young Eli, or Who is Young Eli. You can do youtube.com, Young Eli, /Young Eli Music. I have the link in the description. Check out the Patreon, patreon.com /Gifted Mind State. I have a lot of beneficial information, not just information such as this, but more so on how to reach financial freedom. I have real estate information. I have foreign exchange market information. I have information like this, lectures, movies like A Spook Who Sat by the Door. R.I.P. to Sam Greenlee. I appreciate you for putting that movie out, because I respect you. It is it's the 25th. Fuck Kwanzaa. Peace to all the people that speak Swahili, even though I know that's not really the indigenous or the original language. But I say peace to the people over there in Africa, but for my people over here in America that is celebrating Kwanzaa, I say do better, because Ron Karenga was an agent. And if you don't know about Hakeem Jamal was assassinated along with, you know, Fred Hampton, Huey P, and so forth. So Ron Karenga was he split up with Hakeem Jamal, all due to the fact that they wasn't on the same type of time. Hakeem Jamal was on the same type of time that the BBP was on, you know, the Black Panther Party. So BPP was on, you know, so they was on the same type of time Malcolm X was on. Malcolm X, Baba Omawale, he was all about unity, peace, bringing the people from Africa over with us and uniting us as we're dealing with the same situation and circumstances still to this day, but we don't really see it because perception is a motherfucker. But yeah, Ron Karenga wasn't with that. He wanted to get people involved into this Swahili Kwanzaa thing, and he worked with the FBI to take down the Black Panther Party. I'm pretty sure he helped take down what's his name, Hakeem Jamal, rest in power. Actually, I should put the link up with the interview of Steve Coakley, where him and Ron Karenga was on this radio show, and they actually had an encounter, and it was pretty eye opening. So that's my stance, and that's why I feel the way I feel, and it's only because I know what I know, and if there was more to know, then I would look it up and know more, but this is what it is. It is what it is. I made the conscious decision, and that's what's up. Tap in your gifted mind state. Get your mind straight. Check out giftedmindstate.com. You already know what it is. Hey.
GMS, gifted mind state. I got my mind straight. I needed to recalibrate.
I meant to say, before look, I'm ready to get off this shit. Follow me, Who Is Young Eli on Instagram, giftedmindstate.com, at giftedmindstate.com, Facebook, all of that. Yeah. I just dropped my EP, my first EP, A Change Is Gonna Come, inspired by Sam Cooke, right? Because I love my 70s, my 60s, 70s music, my R&B, Sam Cooke, Curtis Mayfield, and Marvin Gaye are kind of my favorite artists. Oh, Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes. Can't forget about Wake Up Everybody. But yeah, before I get off of here, Change Is Gonna Come just dropped this project on Christmas, and I want you to check it out. I will put the link in the bio. You can also check it out on the website right there, giftedmindstate.com, and it's on all DSPs, Apple Music, Spotify, wherever you listen to your music at. And visuals will be on the way. Check out the visual though that you just seen. Aware is on my YouTube channel, Who Is Young Eli, and there's more on the way. But this song right here is called Gifted Mind State, and you already know it's Gifted Mind State. Like I said, get your fucking mind straight. Hit!
GMS, gifted mind state. I got my mind straight. I needed to recalibrate. Now I'm feeling great. No more pork on my fork or steak on my plate. Yeah, I'm eating plant-based, trying to own some real estate. Gotta grow my own food. I don't trust Bill Gates. Supermarket selling GMO, so the food is fake. It's a shame, can't complain, even though I felt the way. But I chose to make a change. No more bullshit on my plate. I was living how I ate, only eating for the taste. Most my choices were mistakes. Not all heroes wear a cape. In myself I had to save. Now I'm seeing better days, cause I look for better ways. I was better anyways. It's gifted mind state. Get your mind straight. The mind is the gift, don't let it go to waste. Go at your own pace. Get your mind straight. This is not a race. Get your mind straight. Get your mind straight. Get your mind straight. It's gifted mind state. Get your mind straight. Get your mind straight. Get your mind straight. It's gifted mind state. Get your mind straight. Man in the mirror, I be self-reflecting. Give myself a second, do some self-correcting. I don't go to God, I got the answers to my questions. I remember my mistakes, so I can't forget the lessons. That's a fact, no excuse. I know what I used to act delusional, like I didn't have a clue. I was not accountable, I was too emotional. I used to think that shit was cool, but that is all I knew. Yeah, health is really wealth, I got knowledge yourself. The world around me changed when I changed myself. It's like a buffet, gotta help yourself. That's what really taught me how to love myself. Whole time I thought that I loved myself. The way I feel now is not how I felt. And I can tell maybe cause the kale. Eat fruit for breakfast, but for my meal, less stress, let you go for real. It's gifted mind state, get your mind straight. The mind is a gift, don't let it go to waste. Go at your own pace, get your mind straight. This is not a race, get your mind straight. It's gifted mind state, get your mind straight. The mind is a gift, don't let it go to waste. Go at your own pace, get your mind straight. This is not a race, get your mind straight. Get your mind straight, get your mind straight. It's gifted mind state, get your mind straight. Get your mind straight, get your mind straight. It's gifted mind state, get your mind straight.